Welcome to another episode of Sub-Auteurs. Be sure to keep your eyes open for this episode because we have a lot to talk about. Our latest film is something that is disturbing, thought-provoking, and just all around messed up, but in all of the best ways.
Yep.
Today,
It looked good though.
It did
was
look good.
beautiful.
It looked very good. You'll be glad that you kept your eyes open. But before we get to that, we are your hosts. I am Misha.
I am Mai.
And I'm Anjo.
And roll the music. So we came out of this movie, and it is safe to say that we were shooketh. We went in with all the right expectations, only to have every one of those expectations to being completely wrong. What did you guys think? What do you have to say about ZOE KRAVITZ's directorial debut, Blink Twice?
That's a long setup before getting to the movie's title. I like it. I loved it. Loved it so much.
I mean, it's really great that the setup is long because I still cannot process the movie. It was so good though.
I kind of processed it already, and that just makes me want to watch it again.
Yes.
And again, and again, and again. But thanks to those who invited us.
Absolutely. Thank you, of course, to the good folks at AdPub Hub. Hi, Joanna.
Hello.
They invited us on behalf of Warner Brothers PH, and we saw the film at its premiere in SM Aura. It was quite an experience. I didn't even watch a trailer before
Me
we saw this
neither.
movie.
I was able to watch the trailer once.
Okay.
But I had all my expectations ready for this movie.
I had zero.
Yeah. But here's the thing though. After the first hour, I threw out all of my expectations. So it's like, oh, this is so different from what I thought it would be.
Yeah, I had zero. I don't know where. I think Misha just threw out the idea like, hey, let's not know anything before we go into it. And I was just like, okay, sure. And I didn't even know it was ZOE KRAVITZ directed until the same day. I didn't even know that Channing Tatum was starring in it until I saw the setup. And I was like, oh!
Now I kind of feel
Oh.
bad. Now I kind of feel bad that I saw the trailer.
No, it's good. I mean, yeah, we all go into movies with different prior knowledge, and there will be people who just so happen to not know anything before getting into it, and that was my decision.
Absolutely. I think it helped that I had no expectations whatsoever. I mean, think about it. The last time we saw Channing Tatum on the big screen was Deadpool.
He was trying to make a name for himself.
Well, he did make a name for himself.
And it was like the farthest thing in the world because he is just a goofball in Deadpool and Wolverine. He's a goofball in Bullet Train. He's a goofball in 21 Jump Street. He's a naked goofball in Magic Mike.
Semi-naked.
Okay. We're classy here.
Would you want to let some things out before we continue?
No, we'll get to it later.
Okay.
So it was just great seeing him acting his ass off.
Yes.
He was really
Yeah.
acting here.
The last serious movie I saw him in was Foxcatcher.
Same.
Oh my
And that was
God.
heavy. That was so
Same.
fucking heavy. So I totally understand if it was a conscious decision to be like, you know what? I'm gonna do gago shit for a while.
Yeah, but-
Because that was like, that was gut wrenching. So that's when I felt okay, it's his time to go back, and I am so happy to actually see him acting here.
Yes.
He was
yes.
actually pretty scary.
He was
It's pretty-
frighteningly.
Right? It was
Yep.
a really good performance coming from Channing Tatum.
So Channing Tatum basically is playing a tech billionaire named Slater King, and when the movie starts, he's apparently done some horrible thing that he has to do a public apology for. As we've seen so many celebrities do, and the whole thing basically kicks off when he and his friends invite these women that they meet at a party to his private island.
It's like an amalgamation of like celebrities, rich people, politicians, and all these
Current
things.
events.
That's the main theme of it. It's like how fucked up these rich people can be. And unfortunately, women are always the victim in this certain situation because not only do they not have the same economic status, but just because they're women.
Yeah.
Right, right. Our lead Frida is played by Naomi Aki, who I last saw in The Rise of Skywalker. She played like a retired stormtrooper or something in that movie.
I saw that movie, but I tried to forget about that movie.
As so say
I
we
saw
all.
that movie, but I don't remember her in it because it's a small role. But she was great as the lead here.
She really was. She looks like she could be the sister of Sonequa Martin Green, the formerly of The Walking Dead and Star Trek Discovery. I really thought it was her for the first few minutes.
I like how Misha's able to bring up Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yeah, I know, right?
Nerd.
Segways.
Okay, but here, she does an amazing job in just showing how, naive she was in thinking that I want to leave my shitty life behind.
Mm-hmm.
I've made it. I'm here in this island with this gorgeous billionaire in this gorgeous island. And we're just like going crazy, doing drugs every night, eating delicious food, hanging out with interesting people. So why would you want to leave that?
I mean,
Dun dun dun.
well, why indeed?
Why indeed?
And it's when I like how the movie takes its time in revealing the true horror behind its premise. Because when we were going in, I thought this was just going to be some kind of, semi-dramatic, quirky character piece.
Yeah, it was quirky. I mean, at the end of it, it's very dark. But there are like snippets of humor in between.
Yep.
So it's not completely dark. So it also deceives you into thinking like, hey, this might go somewhere fun. It's not going there. Wait a minute, it's getting darker. And darker.
Oh, no.
And darker.
Oh no.
Until you're like, what the fuck?
And then you're like, make it stop.
Yep.
No, I was like, no, keep going. It's fucked up.
It was
But that's just me.
It's fucked up, but it's really disturbing.
so it's kind of incredible how a lot of the movie is taken from current headlines.
Yeah.
Just for context, the original title of the movie that Zoe Kravitz was selling was Pussy Island. But but everyone that they approached refused to put money, refused to distribute it because of the title. In fact, they said that the target audience, women, would be offended by it. And it turns out they did focus group studies and the women were offended. They're like, I don't want to watch a movie with that title. But Zoe said that no, she chose that title on purpose because her movie was speaking to the absurdity of being a woman in today's modern society where you're forced to smile through the worst kinds of trauma and abuse. What can you say to that?
It captures it so well because it starts out with, the island part starts out that they're being pampered. They're being given wonderful clothes, expensive perfume,
Expensive drugs.
makeup, drugs. It's like you even have this scene where this group of girls are like frolicking in the garden, just enjoying their time there. So it's like, finally, we can like let everything go and just be ourselves and enjoy, but to what?
To what extent?
To what extent,
It's kind of like the flip side of Barbie, where Barbie goes into the real world.
Actually, that's what I like about it. It's like it is very strong feminist themed, but it's not as out there as Barbie.
It's more subtle.
It is very subtle. No, not very. It turns into like a very, very strong theme towards the end.
Towards the end.
But it's even like in the little sprinklings, little details, like even down to when they were doing their jobs as waitresses in the beginning, the boss is just, don't forget to smile. And these are like little details that, somehow irk women. It's like, oh my God, that line again.
Like
It's
comments like, you should smile more. You look prettier.
Exactly. So even down to the small details, Zoe Kravitz nailed it. And it's just so wonderfully fleshed out and pieced together by Zoe Kravitz. And I'm sure these also come from personal experiences coming from Hollywood.
Yeah,
That's true.
For
because Zoe Kravitz herself is essentially Hollywood royalty. She's second gen. She's, forget the term, a Nepo baby, which means that she was surrounded by all this industry bullshit since she was a child.
But despite having that status, she still has to go through that shit. So that just means like, okay, being a woman is just fucked up no matter what, even if you have the status, even if your dad is Lenny Kravitz, even if you like grew up in Hollywood, like still fucked up.
Yeah.
So basically, Channing Tatum as the tech billionaire and all his friends, including Christian Slater, they're all a bunch of somewhat skeezy men.
Yeah.
And when we find out what they're actually about after an extended period of. There was a lot of repetition at the beginning, right? They were showing sequences.
Party.
They were how one day would blend into the next and everything starts looking the same. And then you see little differences. Like somebody's got a bruise.
Yeah.
Or somebody has an odd nagging feeling that something's wrong, but they can't quite pinpoint it.
Yep.
And there's a scary maid.
Red Rabbit.
There's a scary
Red
maid
Rabbit.
who just keeps trying to tell you something, but you don't know what the hell they're on about.
Yeah.
You know, the funny thing is, you'd think that she's the scary element when in fact it's not her at all.
Well, we were led to believe
Yeah.
they were the scary element.
Nope, it's the man.
Which is why this movie is so good in setting up everything.
Yeah.
Like, you'd think like it would be a bit slow at first. Well, it is a slow burn, but it does pay out.
Yeah, it pays off.
so well at the end.
And it managed to make Haley Joel Osment scary.
Can we talk about that? One of the guys.
Wait, was he ever scary?
I
Did
mean,
he
yeah.
try to be scary
just
in any
to be
other thing?
participating in that nightmare, I would find him fucking scary because he's deceiving. You'd think he's a cute little teddy bear, but like, look what he does at night.
It's kind of funny though, because like Haley Joel Osment, he still hasn't grown past like 5 feet whatever.
5 feet, not 5 feet, not over 5'4".
And he's
God.
got like he's covered with a beard, so he looks less babyish, I
So
guess.
he looks like an Ewok.
But he's playing basically he played the same guy in Entourage, where he's like this bearded
Privileged.
nepo baby who just wants to be one of the cool kids. And here, that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. That's what he is.
And it's funny that we're seeing Christian Slater also as one of the quote-unquote cool kids, because he strikes me as one of those Peter Pan types who just never fucking grew out of, being a party
Partying.
boy in the 80s, and he's still doing it now.
I know some people who are like that.
that makes it perfect casting.
Yeah,
I guess, pretty much. But whereas people like Christian Slater presumably have grown up, the people in this movie have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. The men have no
the men,
redeeming
yes.
qualities.
I like how each male character has a representation of each male archetype.
Oh, do explain.
Like
As
remember
a man.
that young quiet guy, that young quiet guy who said he didn't do anything wrong. That's the thing. He didn't do anything to help.
I'm a nice guy.
I'm a nice guy. So just because you didn't do anything doesn't make you a nice guy.
Well, let's give a little bit of context on that. At some point during the film, we find out that despite everything that we've been shown, where they're having the time of their life, they're having a great time. They're having parties, they're having drugs, they're having great food. It turns out that every night, all the women are being drugged and the men are doing all manner of horrible, horrible, horrible things to the women. And they don't remember anything the next day. And then they just start over every single day.
It's Epstein Island, but with good-looking people.
Oh my God.
Well, at least no minors involved.
One of those...
We don't know that. Let's not get into that.
Well, at least for this setting, you
For
never
this
know.
setting.
Or
You
for
never
this,
know.
For this batch.
For this-
Yeah.
We don't know how many
exactly.
times they've done this
It gets
before.
worse the more we talk about it. The more we speculate.
But you know what? It also is how horrific reality is.
Yeah.
It might have its, fictional elements, hopefully. Hopefully, that's a very strong hopefully in this. But yeah, it's just so, that makes it all the more scarier than
Yeah.
any entity.
I agree that the fact that it's rooted in reality just adds to its fucked upness.
What I find particularly disgusting is the trope of rich assholes who will use a young woman's ambitions against them to have their way with them. Because when the movie opens, we see that Frida is actually a wannabe nail influencer on Instagram, right?
Nailfluencer.
A nailfluencer with her terrible handle of Nailmals.
And nail moles.
Nailmals.
Yes.
It's terrible.
It's bad.
It's really bad.
I mean,
But-
we love the character.
oh sure, Frida's great.
Except
Frida's
her,
great.
Her wittiness.
It's disgusting, like on a level of what you said, Epstein or even Weinstein, for heaven's sake, where this young woman who just wants something better for herself sees that the only way to accomplish that is by attaching herself to a rich, successful white dude.
Yeah.
And that's what's heartbreaking too. There is the sequence where she and her best friend are talking. The best friend wants out at this point.
Yes.
But then it's like, please do it for me. I'm finally getting somewhere.
Yes.
No, the one thing that really bothered me about that was like, I'm seen. I
my
can be
God.
seen. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
The best friend, her name is Jess. She's played by Aaliyah Shawkat, who we saw grow up on Arrested Development. She was Michael Cera's cousin in that one. And I have not actually seen her in anything as an adult. So it was a bit shocking to me to see her here. But she plays the solid kind of best friend that Brittany Murphy would have played Once Upon a Time.
Oh,
Which made it more tragic.
that's sad. But
it
yeah,
really
I
had
can
to be
imagine.
Brittany Murphy.
Because they kind of look the same.
Yes, they do.
They
yes.
have the same.
I agree.
Also, the quick wit. Also.
Yeah.
And at some point, when Jess goes missing, and some reason Frida is not as concerned as she should be, everything starts to unravel once Frida is given a dose of some moonshine by the spooky maid.
Snake venom.
Snake venom moonshine
By Creepy Lady.
by
Snake
creepy
shine.
lady. I think it's kind of ironic that she accepts this moonshine from the spooky maid because all common sense should have said that you don't take illicit substances from strangers in the first place. And the ultimate expression of that, I think, is when she got on the plane with Channing Tatum and his friends. Why would she not? Wouldn't there be like little alarm bells going on in the back of her head?
I think it's just mainly because you can see it as a step forward or, something better than what you have in your life right now.
Or, I don't know, like, down to the human level. It doesn't have to be a gender thing.
Yeah, it's
Wouldn't
more...
you be curious?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, with a billionaire is paying attention to you and you think
Exactly.
you're a nobody. It just makes it more disgusting, honestly.
Yeah, and given also Channing's character here, you'd think he's reformed, you'd think he's changed, you'd think he's like, people believe that.
No, he's a better person.
Yeah.
Because he did the whole public apology
Yeah.
tour.
And when they talked, they hit it off. It seemed sincere. It was a connection. And a lot of people do stupid shit when they're attracted to someone.
Okay, I gotta ask, at what point did you figure out that something was wrong with this place?
You go ahead.
When things got repetitive, and you guess you were seeing the little signs. Because me, as an introvert, this is just me and my personal experience, but I'm like, aren't you tired of this every day? Can we just like have one night where we don't do drugs? Can we just like chill, do karaoke or something? Or just like same people every single night? It's like, oh no.
We have the same sentiments. I think at some point during the screening, I whispered, I asked Mai, kaya ang baho na nila.
Well, they probably have showers.
I know.
But,
But that's besides the point. It's like, the point of that question during the screening was,
oh yeah.
Di ka pa ba pagod?
Yeah, exactly. So that just like...
It could be age talking to...
But these people couldn't be that much younger than us. They're probably our age or older.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
So-
I mean, Christian Slater.
Oh, man.
So
I thought it was just expressed very well what Zoe Kravitz was trying to share with the audience so that when that turn finally comes and it goes full-blown horror, I was right on board. I was completely on board with it because she had really lulled us into not even a false sense of security because the creepy factor was there, okay? It was there.
oh, you knew that it was gonna pop up somewhere. You just didn't know when.
Yeah.
And I just didn't expect it to be that intense.
Yeah.
I don't think she lulled you into a false sense of security because it was just uneasy to begin with.
Yes.
It was more of she will just bore you with monotony. Not bore, or maybe just
Make you question
the
Yeah.
monotony
the
of
routine.
everything.
Yes. But you also mentioned during the screening that what's great about it, the visuals at some point were so not disturbing. Even in the most pleasant scenes where they're just enjoying by the pool or just enjoying the scenery of the beautiful island,
Yeah.
there's always something off.
Yes.
Like the shot is too close,
Yes.
or maybe the saturation is way
It was
high.
way too high.
It was, and even the sound design, you'd have like little
Yes.
hints of like, that's not a sound I would normally like to hear,
Yep.
but that
So-
just happens.
So now that you've brought it up, this is what I wanted to talk about, is how much of a sensory experience this
It
movie
was.
is, because every shot there was beautiful. It's like Zoe Kravitz really did her research. She knew what she wanted to show you.
Yes.
And in every shot, sometimes it would, should probably pull influences from directors like Wes Anderson because of all those
Yeah, they're
balanced shots,
asymmetrical.
right? But a lot of the time, she would just make it intimate but awkward,
Yeah.
and it's how the whole movie felt, and then including the sound. If you listen to everything, it was an ASMR experience because man, I wanted to smoke.
Yeah,
watching
down
this
to the crackling of the fire in their joints and whatnot.
Yeah. Are we allowed to say joints? It's a podcast. We are.
Yeah, it's a podcast. You've been cursing all the while.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Something that really stuck with me was the sense of entitlement of these rich fucks.
These rich
honestly.
fucks.
Because, like, think about it. I mean, the maid was trying to warn Frida this whole time, but she wasn't openly challenging what was going on. She knew what was going on. She knew these people were getting raped every night. These people were being made to do unspeakable things that they would then get their memories erased. But, you know, she probably thought, who the hell am I? I'm too low on the food chain to matter. I mean, fuck it. Even the security guard was watching and he was bored. He was just reading his shit. He was doing nothing.
And here, even from a woman who was there and aware did nothing, Gina Davis.
Yes.
Yes.
So
yes.
she actually chose
To forget.
to forget
Right.
and fuck everything. I'm not in this. I'm just here to get shit together.
Yeah.
But considering all the horrific things happening, I'm out.
I like the fact that she's from an older generation
Yeah.
of women. If you look at the cast,
Yeah.
she's the oldest one of the cast. And maybe that generation, the older generation, were trained to stay silent.
That kind of says
and she's a
something about
product
it.
of that kind of mentality or upbringing, which is sad.
That makes it all the more sad because
Okay.
coming from a woman, and it was extra funny and heartbreaking at the same time when Frida was like, I'm trying to help you, bitch.
Gina
Oh my
Davis in this movie, she plays the assistant to Channing Tatum, and for all intents and purposes, she's also on board with all this debauchery. She collects everyone's phones, she sets the schedule, she arranges the furniture in the house, and
That fucking
That
chair.
one red chair.
but
chair.
what's insane is that when she is given the antidote to the amnesia stuff,
Tequila shot.
tequila shots.
Quote unquote.
She's angry not because of what was done to her. She's angry because she was made to remember it. So
Yeah.
that tells me at some point she was one of the women on this island. She was forced to
Maybe.
undergo. Maybe she was one of Christian Slater's victims. I don't know.
Probably.
And she still decided that, you know what? Can't beat them, join them. And that really sucked.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes it extra
She's part of that.
sad.
That's what.
That's a sucky realization.
That's what led me to think like she is part of that group of people who would just accept it, let it happen.
Yeah. And another fucked up thing is when you also realize that it wasn't Frida's first time on the island.
Oh my God.
That makes it all the more messed up
Oh
because
my God.
first of all, she just finds herself, I don't know how she finds herself in that situation again where she goes to Channing Tatum again, but it's like, oh my God, these men, however they orchestrate it, maybe it's just so sick that they have their favorites and they won't leave them alone.
I think, I mean, I like that there were hints at the beginning that she had
scar.
been there before. Like she had a scar on the side of her temple, and her boss, when she was doing her waitress job, he's like, "Oh, don't make a show of yourself like you did last year."
Yeah.
And we're not told what that is. But the second that Channing Tatum is taken with her, at first we think it's because, oh, she's clumsy. And then we find out it's because it's more like he wants to test how well his amnesia shit works.
Yeah.
And treats her as if it's her first time on the island. That just made it even more disgusting.
It was an experiment or a game to him. That's
Or
nasty.
I don't know if I'm reading too much into it, but it sometimes also symbolizes the cycle of abuse, wherein you keep going through this shit, but women are so quick to forgive because they also remember the good times or what made them fall in love with this abuser in the first place.
No, that's completely valid. I don't think you're reading too much into it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it because I really like that thing.
Yeah, so also
interesting.
that also goes back to why she went back in the to the plane and joined him in the first place because it wasn't also in her complete control.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true.
And who knows about the rest of the women, how do we know it's not their third, fourth, fifth time or whatever?
That is awful.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty sad.
Another character that caught my attention was Kyle MacLachlan as Channing Tatum's therapist.
So
God,
the professor,
the sea captain from How I Met Your Mother.
Yes,
Or
him.
maybe even like one of Charlotte's exes from Sex and the City.
Yes, and also that guy's no stranger to mind fucks. I mean, he was in Twin Peaks. He was in the original Dune. He was Paul Atreides 40 years ago. His role here is interesting because at first you think that he's the one who's feeding Channing Tatum's character this line about forgetting being the ultimate release. And later it turns out it looks like he's just another customer on the island.
So much deeper.
It's so much deeper.
And I love how unnerved he is when Frida just throws in this joke from when they met on the first day, like at the event where they all met. So she throws in the joke about, hey, blink twice if you need help. Ganon. So that unnerves him because it just tells him, how much does this woman remember?
Yes.
Because at the same, he's one of the people who abused her one of those nights when he visited. It's like, oh my God.
I have a question. Yes, correct. I remember now. Because I thought in my head, he not remember who she was until he was cued into it.
No, I think he was just pretending not to know.
I agree. And that's why he was shocked later when they saw each other on the island again. And she's like, he's like, oh, you remember me? He's like, of course, I saw you at the party the other night.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, that's what I meant. Haha.
Yeah, exactly. So, he's questioning like,
now, now I remember.
Let's talk about some of the women on the island. Who stuck out for you?
Well, the person that stuck out to me was Sarah. Okay, the other final girl here in this movie, because I saw her before from Hitman with Glenn Powell. I was like, oh, where have I seen her before? But I also like how her character starts out as the one who dislikes Frida because they're gunning for the same guy. It's like classic pitting women against each other because they want the same guy. That's how I thought the setup was gonna be. But when shit hits the fan, they work together.
They did.
I love
and that was the best part. That was
it
great.
was so satisfying. But yes, it does also show like this dark side of being women, that sometimes that does happen, that we fight because we like the same guy. But at the core, at the end of it, hey, we should help each other out.
I appreciated that as well. And I also wish that we didn't necessarily live in a society where teaming up to face a greater evil was apparently a fact of life.
Yes.
It's just something that she accepted once she realized what was going on. She's like, yeah, we have to stick together. Otherwise, these men are gonna mess us up. It's something that she goes into with no question. She has no questions and no qualms about applying 7 seasons worth of reality show survival training.
Yeah, and when she's given that venom, it's like, oh, this shit is terrible. But what other choice do we have?
Yep.
It just comes down to that. And also, when they finally team up is when shit really starts getting exciting and satisfying.
That was where the payoff went.
Yeah, it just goes
all that setup.
It goes to 100, 1,000 from there because they start, trying to get the women to wake up. They also start,
tequila shots.
Yes. And that's where they also start getting violent with the men. And, it's all the more satisfying.
Oh my God.
So I think satisfying is absolutely, it was cathartic.
It was cathartic. Cathartic was
when
the
they
right
started
word.
giving those guys a taste of their own medicine. I wish they were more methodical about their violence because it got a little slapdash. But you know what? They didn't ask to be put in this situation.
Exactly.
I'm sure they could have planned better if they had time.
I mean, I think it was a question of surviving at that point.
They didn't have the time because no matter how much they were trying to mask that, oh, we don't remember anything, it's just so hard to pretend when you know how fucked up everything
you
is.
could see it. The performance of Frida was great because every time she would talk to Slater King, she would be like,
yeah, and they would start being flinchy and the smiles
flinch.
were all the more forced this time while trying to hold back tears at the same time. That acting was also amazing.
On point. Everything was on point.
Yeah.
And forgive me, I know we're not supposed to go backwards, but you mentioned, now we're talking about how the women teamed up for a common cause. I remembered what you said earlier. It just occurred to me now when you said that it starts out with the women like essentially being pit against each other because they all want Channing Tatum's affection. And you see that at the beginning when Frida finds some used lipstick in her drawer in her hotel room. And she's like, sorry, bitch.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I'm here now. Whoever the hell you were, you don't matter.
Kind of bother, it's
gross.
kind of disturbing how it was really hers to begin with.
Yeah, could be.
Scary. What I liked also about when the shit gets real, when the violence starts happening, when the girls start taking back their agency, it leads to the single best monologue in the movie, where Channing Tatum just gets rid of all pretense. He just sheds all pretense of civility and humility, and he just goes full bad guy.
That monologue was when I said, "Oh, he's acting again. He's not being a goofball again."
It's a monologue made out of 2 words. Repeatedly, but you just know what he's trying to say.
Yep.
It's I'm sorry, repeatedly, very intensely.
Yes.
And then later on at the end, after all that, he's like, okay.
I love the flip of the switch because
Exactly.
he goes nuts. He goes through it like calmly at 1st, and then he goes, he goes off hinge. He goes nuts, and then okay, I'm done. We're
One
good now.
snap, yeah. Okay, yeah. That's how it
I
works.
think that's reflective also of our modern day celebrity culture, where men can do the worst, most heinous, most disgusting, offensive things, but it's generally the women that they're with who get punished for it. Whether it was Johnny Depp, it was Hugh Grant, or any of these other people who made a big show of saying I'm sorry on national television, on social media, and they think that just because they say these 2 little words,
Doesn't
it's good.
absolve
They're
okay.
good.
everything,
It's okay.
right?
Everything's forgiven.
Let's talk about how he gets a dose of his own medicine, quite literally. I love how that played out because she somehow gets the perfume that makes them forget
Right.
onto his vape.
Right.
And that's also such a great acting moment for Channing Tatum when he's panicking and looking at like, what the fuck happened here? Why is everything in disarray? Why is everybody bleeding? Like when he forgets through that vape, it's like, oh man, that's so good.
Let's talk about the ending. I like where it went, but I gotta admit, while it was happening, I found it very questionable
I
that she
know.
dragged Channing Tatum out of that burning house.
I mean, yeah, he's hot, but you don't save him for that.
He would have been hotter in the fire.
Exactly.
No, but because of the ending, you knew what the
Yeah.
reason was.
And it was genius.
I
It's
like how they set that whole thing up,
Yeah.
that whole ending, because from the start, she was questioning Jess going back to her ex, supposedly from in an abusive relationship, and she says, "Take that power back," which is exactly what she did at the end of this movie.
That's
brilliant.
true.
Brilliant setup.
So, if for anyone who hasn't seen it, I don't know why you're still listening.
I know, exactly.
But we're here already. So at the end of the movie, Frida basically takes over Channing Tatum's company,
Yeah.
using the amnesia drug to keep him nice and docile and domesticated. And he's just happy to be there while she's now girl boss. And everyone who used to suck up to him is now terrified because of everything that she knows. I want to know what happened to Sarah. I mean, would she not want to be a part of this?
I mean,
It's okay if she doesn't.
yeah.
There are some people who are just like, I just want to leave this alone. Also, that forgetting
Yeah.
is that luxury. But okay lang, I guess, kung if I were Frida, I'd be like, hey, let's go out sometime. I'll give you a nice house just for or something. Just like keep you as a friend. But you don't have to be part of this
Yeah.
entire scheme.
Part of me wonders what
Yeah.
happened to Sarah, but then I appreciated the fact that the story centered on Frida.
Yeah.
We don't know much about Sarah anyway.
Maybe she's, doing another season of that reality show. Who knows? With more money. Or maybe she's the judge now.
Probably,
I don't know.
or
knows?
better, probably training women to defend themselves.
Exactly.
That would be a good fucking show.
Amazing.
That would be a good show.
Yeah.
Okay. Just before we close, I want to ask, what did you think of Zoe Kravitz as director? Of course, she is engaged to be married to Channing.
I have never found her more attractive in my entire life,
Same.
and I didn't even see her.
Same.
Her
Hard.
brains, her creativity
Hard.
is just
Same.
wow.
And sorry to insert the thirst, but this is actually the first.
Wow, that came late.
I know.
Payoff.
But
I know,
no,
right?
No, this is because I wanted to prioritize the great conversation about this movie she made. But now we have the time for it. It's the first time na both generations crush ko. I have this huge crush on her dad, Lenny Kravitz.
Oh my God.
Okay.
And now it's like her. It's like, my God, this
Oh,
woman
no.
is brilliant. And yes, oh my God, that would be an amazing sandwich to be in with Channing and Zoe.
You know, she comes up to like
my
your
God,
chest,
sand-
right?
Sandwich.
We can cut that out if we
No, we leave it there.
No, we leave that.
We
But-
leave
but
that
again,
there.
she does come.
if they're okay with it, of course, consent.
The logistics would be weird because again, she's like 4'11". She's like 5'1".
is.
She comes up to like your chest.
And
And-
Channing Tatum is what?
He's like 6'2",
And-
6'3".
And Mai is like
5'7".
5'7".
So they look like a Wi-Fi bar.
So hindi sandwich. Wi-Fi bar.
Wi-Fi bar. Okay.
Fine,
But no,
fine.
going back to Zoe Kravitz, not only is this a story that's supposed to be told by a woman, because all the violence depicted, it hits you hard. You know that it's happening, but it's not gratuitous. It's not exploitative.
Yes.
It's all in such a female gaze where you see just enough to be horrified.
Yes.
You don't need to see the rape. You don't need to see all the violence going on. It's
Yes.
just something you assume, which makes it more horrific at the same time. And that's the beautiful treatment of it. And she is so intentional with every single thing here, which just makes me marvel at her brains and her creativity throughout the entire thing. It's like, oh my God, I would kiss the ground you would walk on, Zoe Kravitz.
I completely agree. I wonder how long she's been trying to tell this story for. It obviously it's obviously been well thought of, well planned, well executed. She's amazing. As a
Nice.
director, first time director,
First time.
First time director.
First-time director.
Oh my God. And I also love one more little tidbit. It's also trivia. How one of my favorite scenes is where Sarah and Frida start charging onto the main house. And the soundtrack is fucking Beyonce. Okay? So that just
Subtle.
it's the cherry on top. It's like, oh, of course they fucking use a Beyonce song. And Beyonce also gave her permission for that. She was like, by all means, use my song for this.
I think it's safe to say that we would recommend this movie. After we came out of the theater, I think all of us expressed that we would like our respective partners to watch this movie, honestly.
I would
Yes.
love to see how Jason reacts to this. Well, your partners, of course, are women who will be very empowered by this. A little
course.
fucked up, but empowered at the end of the day. I kind of want to see how it affects, a guy.
I mean, you've seen us.
You've seen
Yeah,
you, but
you saw us. We were messed up.
it's like those Barbie tests. Remember when I said in the Barbie episode? Yes, ladies, again, this is another litmus test for the guys you date. Watch this movie with them. If they react violently in not a good way, dump him.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lesson we can all learn from. So let us know your thoughts on Blink Twice, Zoe Kravitz directorial debut, and give us a shout out. We're on social media. We're on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, Sub-Auteurs Podcast. We have a Facebook group, Sub-Auteurs We Like Movies. Let us know your thoughts and let us know what you'd like to see from Zoe Kravitz in the future.
Oh my God, more, please.
I need more. I need more of her directorial work. I don't even need to see her in any of the movies. I want to see her make movies.
I told you, right? I saw one of her costumes in the Sony Studios tour. It's like tiny. It's like for a 12-year-old.
Okay.
Tiny girls, big thoughts.
Big brain.
I can't wait to see what she does next.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so that's been an episode. Thank you so much. We are the Sub-Auteurs. I'm Misha.
I'm Mai.
And I'm Ancho.
Yay. And I guess Anjo's not disappointed. We didn't see anything about Twice here.
Oh,
No, I'm not.
it's okay.
I'm not. I'm actually relieved.
Yeah. No Momo here.
No Momo. It's okay. It's
Maybe
okay.
the next one. Maybe the next one.
No, I'd see her in a concert.
Of course.
Wow.